Good afternoon, students. In the last lecture, we studied Griffith's experiment and Avery McLeod-McCarthy experiment. Today, we see here next experiment, that is Hershey-Chase experiment and DNA packaging in molecular basis of inheritance. First, we see Hershey-Chase experiment. In 1952, Alfred Hershey and Martha Chase finally proved that DNA is the genetic material and not proteins. They carried out the experiment by using bacteriophages and E. coli bacteria. First, we see what are bacteriophages. Phages means viruses. Bacteriophages are the viruses that infect bacteria. And the body of the bacteriophages is composed of DNA and proteins. These bacteriophages are obligate parasites, so to become active, they require host like bacteria. That's why E. coli bacteria were used in this experiment. Now we see how these bacteriophages infect bacteria. Here you can see this is a bacteriophage. It attaches to the wall of the bacterial cell. Then the genetic material enters inside the bacterial cell, where it mixes with the genetic material of the bacterial cell and multiplication is carried out. As a result, new viral particles or the new bacteriophages developed inside the bacterial cell. The main aim of Hershey and Chase was to find out what entered inside the bacterial cell or what was the genetic material, whether it was a protein or DNA. So to find out this, they used radioactive isotopes as a marker. Here they used sulfur 35 and phosphorus 32 as a marker to mark or to label the proteins and DNA. Why did they use this specific sulfur 35 and phosphorus 32 markers? Let us see. Sulfur is an integral part of proteins, but it is not present in DNA, while phosphorus is one of the main component of DNA, but it is absent in proteins. And that's why to label proteins, they used sulfur and they used phosphorus to label DNA, which made them easy to identify or to find out what exactly entered inside the bacterial cell or what was the genetic material. Now we see the actual experiment performed by them. Here they obtained S35 labeled protein and P32 labeled DNA bacteriophages. They grew E. coli bacteria and bacteriophages in two different culture mediums. Now, what is this culture medium? Culture medium is a nutritive medium which is used to grow microorganisms artificially in the laboratory. Here, in the first culture medium, they used S35 as a source of sulfur, and in second culture medium, they used P32 as a source of phosphorus. In the first case, where viruses grown on the radioactive sulfur contained radioactive proteins, but not radioactive DNA. And we know the reason, because sulfur is an integral part of a proteins and it is absent in DNA. While in the second case, where viruses grown in presence of radioactive phosphorus contained radioactive DNA, but not radioactive protein, because phosphorus is component of DNA and it is absent in proteins. In this way, they obtained labeled protein and labeled DNA bacteriophages. Now, they allowed these two bacteriophages to infect fresh E. coli bacteria in a medium containing normal phosphorus and sulfur. During infection, bacteriophage attached to the wall of the bacterial cell. Then the genetic material entered inside the bacterial cell, where it got mixed with the genetic material of the bacterial cell, and by the process of replication, new bacteriophages or the new viral particles developed inside the bacterial cell. As the infection proceeded, they carried out second step, and that was blending. Here, during infection, only genetic material was entered inside the bacterial cell, while the empty shells or the coats of the bacteriophages remain attached to the wall of the bacterial cell. They did not enter the bacterial cell. So to remove these vacant empty shells of the bacteriophages, they carried out blending. Further, to separate these bacterial cells from the empty vacant shells of the bacteriophages, they centrifuged the material. Now, what is this centrifugation? Centrifugation is a simply stirring of mixture at high speed. As a result, heavier particles settle down at the bottom, and which is termed as a palate region, while the lighter material gathered at the top and termed as a supernatant. Here, they centrifuged both the mixture. Now, they analyzed both the mixtures by radioactivity. And here they found, in the first case, they found radioactivity in the supernatant part, while in the second case, they found the radioactivity in the palate region. Here, the bacteriophages, which are lighter in weight, the vacant shells of the bacteriophages, which were lighter in weight, gathered in the supernatant part in both the cases, while bacteria were heavier, so settled down at the bottom in the palate region. Here in the first case, the supernatant part contained shells of the bacteriophages, while in the palate region, or the palate region contained bacteria which were infected by viruses having radioactive sulfur or proteins. But in this case, the radioactivity was found in the supernatant part, and the bacteria which were infected by viruses having a radioactive sulfur were not radioactive. And that indicates the proteins from the viruses did not enter the bacteria. And from this they concluded protein was not a genetic material. While in the second case, the radioactivity was found in the palate region, where bacteria which were infected by the viruses with a radioactive DNA were radioactive, indicating that DNA was the material that passed from viruses to the bacteria. In this way, they concluded DNA is the genetic material and not proteins. Friends, in exam, you're supposed to draw the exam, which is, supposed to draw this diagram, which is given in your book. These pictures which I have used here, just for understanding, not to draw the diagram of these pictures. Okay, here we have finished with the Harshey-Chase experiment. Now we see the next subtopic, that is DNA packaging. In 11th standard, we studied the structure of DNA. Here we see or study the DNA packaging. Friends, do you know, in typical mammalian cell, approximately 2.2 meter DNA is present, and it is fits in the small nucleus having size around 10 to the power minus 6. That means it is a 1 millionth part of a 1 meter. And you must be thinking how this 2.2 meter long DNA fits into such a small nucleus. And to get the answer of your question, we see here the DNA packaging. First, we see DNA packaging in prokaryotes. We know prokaryotes do not have a well-defined or a well-organized nucleus. That means genetic material or the DNA is not bounded by a nuclear membrane. Okay, here in this we have taken an example of a E. coli bacteria, and in E. coli the cell size is almost or about 2 to 3 mu long, while DNA is about 1100 mu long and containing about 4.6 million base pairs. Here, the genetic material is not bounded by a nuclear membrane, so the DNA or the genetic material is present in the cytoplasm. Though the genetic material is present in the cytoplasm, it is not scattered all over the cytoplasm because the genetic material is held at the center by certain DNA binding proteins and RNA connector, and that region is termed as a nucleoid. This nucleoid is small, circular, highly folded, naked ring of DNA, and which is about 1100 mu long in perimeter. Now we see how this long 1100 mu long DNA fits into a small 2.3 mu long sized cell. Here, to reduce the size, 1100 mu meter long DNA joined to form a unfolded circular structure, and this is also termed as a chromosome, and the size is reduced to 350 micrometer. Further, this unfolded circular chromosome or DNA undergo folding in presence of RNA connector and certain DNA binding proteins and forms 40 to 50 loops. These loops are also termed as domains, and the size of the DNA gets reduced to 30 micrometer. Further, each loop undergo coiling and supercoiling. Coiling, you know, that is spring-like structure. Supercoiling means it undergo multiple times coiling and reduce its size up to 2 micrometer. Now this supercoiling state of the chromosome or DNA is maintained by certain enzymes like DNA gyrase and DNA topoisomerase 1. Along with these enzymes, some proteins such as HU proteins also helps in maintaining the supercoiling structure of the or supercoiling state of the chromosome or a DNA. In this way, 1100 micrometer long DNA is reduced its size up to 2 micrometer and it fits into the small sized prokaryotic cell. Here we are finished with the DNA packaging in prokaryotes. Now we see DNA packaging in eukaryotes. We know eukaryotes possess well-defined nucleus, and this nucleus contains genetic material which is in the form of chromosomes and nucleolus, and both these structures are enclosed by a nuclear membrane. This chromosome is made up of DNA and histone and non-histone proteins. Just we have seen the DNA packaging in prokaryotes. As compared to the DNA packaging in prokaryotes, the eukaryotic DNA packaging is more complex. Let us see the DNA packaging in eukaryotes. Here you can see yellow colored 8 ball-like structures which are the molecules of histone proteins, and they are wrapped by the DNA strand, and that entire structure is termed as a nucleosomes. Such number of nucleosomes are come together to form a chromatin fiber, which is nothing but the genetic material. Okay. Now we see how this nucleosome develops or forms. Here you can see this red tube-like structure is a negatively charged DNA strand. This DNA possesses negative charge because it has negatively charged phosphate group. And this negatively charged DNA wrapped around the positively charged histone protein molecules. These histone proteins are positively charged because they are rich in lysine and arginine, which are the amino acid residues, and these amino acid residues possess positive charge in their side chain, and that's why the histone proteins are also positively charged. There are 5 types of histone proteins: H1, H2A, H2B, H3, and H4. From these 5 types, 4 types, which are H2A, H2B, H3, and H4, these 4 types of histone proteins forms the core part or the center part of the nucleosome. Here, 2 molecules of each of 4 types of histone proteins arranged together to form a single unit, and this single unit is made up of 8 molecules of histone proteins, forms a single unit which is termed as a octamer of histones. Around this positively charged octamer of histones, a negatively charged DNA wrapped to form a structure which is termed as a nucleosome. There is one more histone protein, that is H1 histone protein. This H1 histone protein acts as a binder protein. The H1 histone protein is present in the region where the DNA strand enters the nucleosomes, and where it, after wrapping, where it leaves the nucleosome, in that region the H1 histone protein is present. This H1 histone protein holds this wrapped DNA at its place. That's why it is also called as a binder histone protein. Okay. Now the wrapped DNA strand contains about 200 base pairs, and it completes 1 3/4 round around this octamer of histone. Okay. Such a number of nucleosomes repeatedly form in the chromatin fiber. You can see here there are number of nucleosomes developed in the chromatin fiber. Now you can see here, in between 2 adjacent nucleosomes there is a DNA strand. This DNA strand links these 2 adjacent nucleosomes. That's why this is termed as a linker DNA. And these nucleosomes in a chromatin fiber looks like a bead on string structure when you observe it under a electron microscope. Further, to reduce the size, such as 6 nucleosomes coiled to form a condensed structure which looks like a telephone wire. That condensed coiled structure, which is made up of a bunch of 6 nucleosomes, is termed as a solenoid. This solenoid has about 30 nanometer thick. Further, the number of solenoids come together condensed, and that further it undergoes supercoiling to form a fiber-like structure which is termed as a chromatin fiber, or a thread-like structure which is termed as a chromatin fiber. But during metaphase, this chromatin fiber condense to form a chromosome. Okay, in this way, DNA is packaged in the eukaryotes. Okay, here in this case, along with the histone proteins, some other proteins also take part in the packaging, which are termed as a non-histone proteins. And these non-histone proteins are used at higher level of DNA packaging. There are two types of chromatin fibers, euchromatin and heterochromatin. Euchromatin is present in the non-condensed region of the chromosomes, and it is loosely packed and it stains light. This euchromatin fiber is genetically active, while the heterochromatin is present in the condensed region of the chromosome. It is more densely packed as compared to the euchromatin, and it appears dark or it stains dark. This heterochromatin is genetically inactive. Okay, here we have finished with the DNA packaging in eukaryotes. Here in brief, I repeat the DNA packaging in eukaryotes. You can see here, this is a DNA strand. This DNA strand gets wrapped around the octamer of a histone proteins to form a nucleosomes. So, number of nucleosomes develop or formed. Now, 6 such nucleosomes coiled to form a condensed structure, which is called as a solenoid. Now, such a number of solenoids condensed to form a thin thread-like structure, which is called as a chromatin fiber. This chromatin fiber remain thin only in the interphase and the early prophase, while in the metaphase, further this chromatin fiber undergo a condensation to form a chromosome. And in this way, DNA is packed, 2.2 meter long DNA is packed and reduced its size. Okay, here we have finished with the DNA packaging in eukaryotes. Today we stop here. In the next lecture, we study about the DNA replication. Thank you.